let's move along to the co-main event of the evening, folks. We've got Jessica Andrade Bate Estaca taking on Natalia Silva. And this is a great fight. Two Brazilians. We got Brazil on Brazil crime. And I think that one thing I want to do, guys, before we get started on this co-main event is I want to say shout out to the sharpest chat in the game. If you guys are here rocking with me at 1:08 in the morning Eastern time, I appreciate you. Thank you guys so much for being here. Drop a like on this video if you're enjoying the content. Get subscribed to the channel if you are new here. And if you have thoughts, comments, questions, concerns, go ahead and fire them off in the live chat right now, or you can get at us in the comments section and I will happily answer those after the program. But let's shout out to the sharpest chat in the game. We got Trap Lord MMA says, I love Gilbert Burns in this spot. If the Gilbert who fought Chimaev shows up, he looks like a big favorite. Brady got ran through by Bilal. My point exactly, brother. I feel the same way as you there. Burns by KO is the pick for General Joy Devory. I hope I did you justice there. Mark Schillingberg is in the chat. Shout out to Mark Schillingberg. Our guy Nev Rowe is still taping the Contender Series. I will give a little bit of Contender Series thoughts at the very bookend of this show. So if you're looking for that, stay tuned for that. But also I want to say quick show note. If you guys are looking for Contender Series content, make sure tomorrow that you're there. Plays and Fades YouTube channel. Myself, Gordo Gambles, the dynamic duo that you know and love. If Pierce is going to make it, we will let you know before the show. We're waiting to hear back. But in any case, excited to bring that content to you guys. It's going to be on the Plays and Fades YouTube channel. Make sure that you show love. And if you're looking for more on that, Gambles, Gordo, myself, you can find us on X. You can find us in the description, the show notes below. So thank you guys for the support there. Now, as for this co-main event, let's get back to it as we shout out to our guy MMA Ricky. He's in the chat. We've got DG in the chat. We've got a couple people with kind words. Nevro says, Liam, big up. Always respect the grind from this guy. I appreciate you big time, Nev. Thank you so much for showing love and support. Shout out to also Easy Bets in the chat, a common recurring friend of the show. So thank you so much for being here. Kristen as well with the fire emojis. Thank you so much. It's nice to have a lady in the building. I always say, ladies and gentlemen, the fellas, it's nice to see everybody showing up, showing out, and definitely a lot of male viewers, but I appreciate all the female viewers. I appreciate everybody who tunes into the show, everybody who makes the show what it is. Cole Stein, first one reporting here after Larry checking in with the salute. So thank you guys all so much for being here. I really appreciate your support. I appreciate you guys rocking with us on the late night. And if you guys don't mind, drop a like on the show so other people can find it as well. And with that being said, it's Jessica Andrade, who is 26-12. I believe she's coming into this fight on a 2-fight win streak. That's correct. She beat Marina Rodriguez at UFC 300. She beat Mackenzie Dern via knockout at UFC 295. But prior to that, guys, a 3-fight skid that was categorized by her getting finished in the first 2 rounds against Tatiana Suarez, obviously one of the highest level women in the division, period, point blank, any way you want to slice it. Yan Xiaonan, that was a really concerning loss, right? She got easily put away. She got hit with big shots early, and it showed another lapse in defense. And we've seen that before from her where she gets put away in the very early going in a fight. Zhang Wei Li. It's not like it's happening against terrible fighters, but it is showing a recurring pattern of she goes out there with little regard for her defense at times, and she likes to slip, move, do a lot of things defensively with the boxing when she's coming forward. However, when she's being pushed backwards, a lot of that starts to go away. And when she's being forced to chase somebody who's circling, oftentimes she gets frustrated. She starts to abandon the footwork and the head movement, and she just starts chasing her opponents down, swinging wildly, taking a lot of chances, being reckless, and that opens her up for big counter shots. That's exactly what we saw from Yan Xiaonan. Tatiana Suarez put a clinic on her in the grappling. Erin Blanchfield was having a competitive striking affair with her on the feet. They were going back and forth. They were trading shots. They were touching each other with the hands. And then all of a sudden, Erin Blanchfield was able to take her down, and it was step 1, step 2, step 3, and it's over. And that was a concerning look, I feel. But I did see that one coming, right? I had a bet on Erin Blanchfield inside the distance. I had a bet on Erin Blanchfield and the under 2.5 rounds at plus 540 in that spot. I picked Yan Xiaonan in my article to win that fight. And I think we talked about the value on the KO, and yet I didn't take a bet on that. So I was disappointed in myself there. But then the Tatiana Suarez fight, I said that Tatiana Suarez would win that fight inside the distance. I thought that she was going to get it done via TKO. She instead got it done with the patchy mixed guillotine, so no skin off the nose there. But I've made a lot of money betting on Jessica Andrade fights, right? I had her to win by submission plus 600 against Amanda Lemos. I had the fight to end by KO at plus 250 against Valentina Shevchenko. I had her on the money line against Cynthia Calvillo. You can just go through the list. I bet a lot of times on Andrade fights, and I've made it a lot more money than I've lost, right? Betting on her fights. And so if we pull up the Bet MMA, I'll just show you guys what I'm talking about here. So we're not, just doing conjecture, right? We'll always pull up the data, the facts, and we'll let the chips fall where they may, because I've had plenty of bad bets as well, which we'll talk about. But some of the good ones, some of my best capped fighters are on this card, and that includes the great and powerful Jessica Andrade. So let's pull this up on the share screen, and away we go. So if you look here, guys, I had 3 units at minus 141, Jessica Andrade against Caitlin Chukagian. She absolutely walked her down and assaulted her in the boxing in that fight. You look at the Andrade Calvillo fight, I had a couple different parlays at minus 270, minus 275, and another one where she just walked down Calvillo and absolutely smashed her. I thought the physicality differences were huge in those fights, the Chukagian fight as well as the Calvillo fight. Now, when you look, I also mentioned the plus 250 on the fight ends by KO for the Valentina Shevchenko fight. I had hedged slightly with Calvillo by decision against Andrade, but I thought Andrade would probably smash her, which he ended up doing. Then you looked at the Andrade fight against Lemos. I had the under pretty big. I had the points handicap minus 5.5 pretty sizably. I had the submission at plus 600. So I was able to make a lot of profit in one event there. The Andrade and Murphy fight. If you guys remember that fight, she beat the tar out of Lauren Murphy and just refused to go for submission attempt. She had the front headlock. She basically, I felt, could have spun behind at any time, taken the back, and instead she just elected to beat her up and land like 150 plus significant strikes, if my memory serves. So I got that one wrong, obviously, but at plus 525, I still don't hate that shot. Then I mentioned the Erin Blanchfield fight. I made a lot there. The Tatiana Suarez fight, gutted that she didn't win that fight via KO or TKO. I had the round 2 specifically, which is when it ended, but it ended via sub. So that was an unfortunate little error. And then I had the Andrade submission prop once again against Marina Rodriguez. I was a little disappointed that she wasn't able to get that one done. Instead, it was a split decision, guys, which I thought that Andrade should have had her way with Marina Rodriguez. And so for that reason, I have a little bit of concern about where Jessica Andrade is at in her career. She's 17-10 as a professional in the UFC. That's a fantastic record. But in recent years, things have been a little bit more dicey, right? You look at the fact she has lost to Zhang Wei. So we're just talking about since 2019, okay? Since 2019, she beat Nami Yunus via slam KO. Then she lost to Zhang Wei Li, very shortly thereafter. And she got knocked out in the first round in that fight. She then loses a split decision to Rose Namajunas, and honestly, that was a very close fight. It could have went, to a draw, but if not, it was a Rose Namajunas justified decision in my view. I don't think Andrade had a clear case for winning that fight in any way. Then you look at the fact that she lost, she beat Caitlin Chukagian at minus 141. I bet her there. That was a great spot, in my humble opinion. Then she fights Valentina Shevchenko, and she got smashed like a bug, right? She just got held down on the ground. The size difference, the physicality difference was very apparent in that fight. And that was ultimately why she came up short. Then you look at the 3-fight win streak. Cynthia Calvillo has not looked good in forever, right? She's just had a really rough go at it. No disrespect to her. She just has not fared well in the UFC lately. Facts, period. Amanda Lemos, I said before the fight, she's a dancer. 5 years ago, she's a dancer. She's not a jiu-jitsu girl. She's going to get exposed if this fight is on the mat. And I was very proud of that read. Ultimately, there's a huge level gap between them. I thought on the feet, it was very competitive. It looked like Amanda Lemos might be starting to get the better of her, and Andrade couldn't get her timing, couldn't get her range. And for me, that's another big red flag for Andrade. It's like she was able to easily exploit the wrestling and the grappling edge that she had against Lemos early in that fight. If she wasn't able to do that, did she even win that fight? It looked like Amanda Lemos was getting off on a lot of damaging shots early. So I don't know that she would have fared very well if that was a fight that was purely on the feet. If they go kickbox, for 15 minutes, I think that would probably be a bad night at the office for Jessica Andrade. So not to say she couldn't win it. Obviously she could, but I'm saying, would I favor her based on what we saw, that limited exchange? No, I wouldn't. I think that would be a little bit dicey. And then Lauren Murphy is just up there in age, and physically wasn't there to contest with a girl like Andrade. The speed difference was very apparent, and the physicality was there. So I think that when I'm looking at this matchup, I'm saying to myself, Jessica Andrade is definitely talented. She's definitely a tough chick, but there's clear vulnerabilities to her game. There's these susceptibilities where when she's lost, she tends to get finished, right? She has 5 losses via KO or TKO in her career, 4 losses via submission. That's 9 of her 12 career losses. Am I doing the math right? Yes, I am. 9 of her 12 career losses are inside the distance. That's just very surprising for WMMA, very rare. So she's one of these kill or be killed fighters in a lot of ways. She does have many decision wins in the UFC, a very good 8-2 record to the decision in the UFC, but she also has 9 finishes under her belt in the UFC. She's got 10 wins by knockout as a pro, 8 wins by submission as a pro. So she's a fantastic fighter. She's a proven finisher. She's a former champion, and she's worthy of a lot of respect. But because she's been around for a long time, because she's had a lot of hard fights, because she cares about the money as much as she cares about the legacy and the other things, right? She's gone out there and taken suboptimal fights. She's taken fights 2 months after she won the title, which basically was asking her to go lose. She went and did it, right? She is a company woman in a lot of ways. And I think the one distinction you make between a lot of opponents she's fought and beat and a lot of opponents she's fought and lost to is this. Marina Rodriguez is no longer an up-and-comer in the division. She's been around for a long time. She's lost a lot of meaningful fights at the top points in her career. So you look back and she's 7-4-2 in the UFC. But you look at the losses. She lost to Andrade. She lost to Verna Jandiroba. She lost to Amanda Lemos. And those were her 3 biggest fights out of her last 4. She lost 3 of 4. And it's kind of just set her career to be a little bit disappointing. She thought she was going to get to the title level, and now it's looking less likely that that's going to take place, right? Meanwhile, Mackenzie Dern, she just now is starting to get back on the trot, right? Trying to get back to a position where she could go out there and win. She got a win over Lupita Godinez, but she had lost to Lemos. She lost to Andrade. She lost to Yan Xiaonan. She lost to Marina Rodriguez. She wasn't in a title challenging position or a meaningful, ready to step up phase in her career. She had been up and down. She had a good win against Angela Hill, but ultimately that's the best showing I think she's had so far in her UFC career, that beatdown of Angela Hill, and she wasn't able to finish that fight. And she's shown that even with great dominant top positions, there's times she can't finish her opponents. And that was like the selling point of her game. She's got great jiu-jitsu, but her decision-making, her optimization for MMA, her ability to mix in ground and pound and certain things have held her back from ultimately reaching her, potential perhaps. So I think that you look at who is Andrade beating. It's women that are a little bit past their prime or women that aren't ready. Right. And I think Mackenzie Dern wasn't ready. I think Marina Rodriguez, Lauren Murphy, they're past their prime. I think Amanda Lemos, she just had a massive mismatch in the grappling phase. I think that the Calvillo fight and, the Caitlin Chookagian fight, again, those are 2 women that, with all due respect, I think they're a little bit past their prime. Chookagian certainly is competing still at a high level when she does compete, but her performances have been a little less frequent. She's got family considerations and other things going on. So ultimately, I look at this fight and I say to myself, okay, Jessica Andrade kind of is who she is. She could go out there and win. She could go out there and lose. She takes a lot of risk, takes a lot of chances, kill or be killed type style. On the other side, I see a Natalia Silva who is an up-and-comer in the UFC. She's 5-0 currently in the promotion, 2 wins via KO or TKO, 3 wins via decision. Her hit list, Viviane Araujo, fine win. Andrea Lee, fine win, although Andrea Lee's been on a very tough run in her own right. Victoria Leonardo was able to knock her out in the first round. Same thing that Wang Kong was able to just do. Hey, hats off, right? or Conway. I can't remember which goes first, but in any case, you guys know what I'm talking about. She just burst on the scene. The Joker, let's call her that. Looked great in that win over Victoria Leonardo. Natalia Silva did it first. Wasn't a one-hitter quitter in quite the same way, but she was able to put her away with strikes in the first frame. The Teresa Bleda fight was fantastic. Fought back from a little bit of early adversity, got in some dangerous, dicey situations on the mat against a long, big opponent, was able to find her way out, was able to deal with those situations. And ultimately, what we saw from Natalia Silva is she was able to place a head kick on a tall woman, timed her, dropping levels, and was able to finish. It was a sensational knockout and something that you do not see every day in women's MMA. So I think that for Natalia Silva, she's a clear prospect that the UFC is looking to build. That win over Jasmine Jasudavicius has aged like fine wine. Jasmine has been fighting great ever since. And this is a girl that fought Marina Rodriguez all the way back in 2017, guys. She's been fighting as a professional since 2015. And if you go back and look at that fight, she was 18 years of age. Natalia Silva has been about this life for a long time. And I think that at this point in her career, she's physically quite strong. I think that she has the ability physically to, probably keep this fight upright if she'd like to. She showed that against Jasmine Jasudavicius, a strong, big, physical girl who wants to assert herself physically. Wasn't really able to do that against Natalia Silva. Natalia Silva showed off huge physical improvements from the time she was an 18-year-old to the time that she was, making her UFC debut. And there was a little bit of time in between her footage. And so that's why there was uncertainty. She came into that fight plus 200. Since then, there's been a lot of confidence on her in the market, and she's had a lot of positive results. She's done her job accordingly. So at 5-0 in the UFC, I think that she's getting better. I think she's a good fighter. I think she's on the rise. And I think Jessica Andrade can beat her, but I think Jessica Andrade would need to turn in a very special performance. I think she'd need to be on. I think she'd need to make a lot of good decisions. I think she would need to not brawl. I think Natalia Silva could hurt her badly if they brawl. I think that, there's a chance that Natalia Silva could potentially get her in a bad grappling situation, which I know sounds crazy. But if you look at Natalia Silva, she's got 7 wins by submission, 2 losses by submission, and the losses by submission were early on in her career. She's only lost via decision since 2016. And again, that fight was Marina Rodriguez, Dayani Firmino back in 2016. Since then, she's grown up physically and technically. She's much better on the floor now than she was then. And I think that she's got good hips. I think that she's very strong. I think she's got club and sub potential. So ultimately, my lean on this fight, I do have a lean on this fight already, which is Natalia Silva. And I think she's going to get the job done here. Am I advocating going to lay this bullish minus 280 price tag? That's kind of where you lose me, right? Andrade is a very good fighter. You don't want to be fading very good fighters, championship level fighters often at these kind of prices. However, I think that you've got a girl in Natalia Silva who I think has a chance to go out there and finish this fight. Use her dangerous skill set in all positions to go out there and leverage that as a biggest win of her career against Jessica Andrade, a former UFC champion. And if you look at how the UFC promotes fighters, they like to get, a opportunity for a up-and-coming star to beat a former UFC champion. That is the ultimate sign of approval. And I think that in this case, we've seen it several times in the women's side of the game. And I think that this is going to be Natalia Silva's chance to finish Jessica Andrade and claim her momentum in this division. So I like Natalia Silva here to get the job done. I think she's the truth.